I already have this machine. You probably don't. I'm going to show you how you can do this. First of all, you want, where is it? Where did I save mine? All right, right click and animations, and you want a level sequence, right? Then you get this here. I already have one, which I call test. You open it up and you will get this sequencer window here, where you can drag things, and you can see I have a few things already in here. This is not really inside the level, it's inside the sequencer. If I would close the sequencer, you're going to see things disappearing. If it will close it, yeah. And if I open it again, it's back. This is essentially just saved in the sequencer. And now we can go to our robot arm here, and we could grab the skeletal mesh and we can drag it in here. It will spawn somewhere over here at world 0. Whoops. And holding end to snap it. It doesn't want to. Okay. And then we can click on the plus here under control rig as a control rig robot arm, and we have our thingy in here. Now we could obviously animate it if we wanted to. We have our controls here, which we can use if we want to. So we can, let's say, Shift W make a key for the position, and Shift W make a key for the position, and Shift W make a, well, just turn on auto key or something. And you're going to see we are interpolating between the targets, just as it should, right? Let's delete the keys here. We can also just literally animate this thing here. So make Shift W key and move this over, and Shift W a key, and you're going to see it's nicely interpolating to its new target. Now, a quick side note, sometimes this here is very, very, very broken. If it is, and you're trying to select something and it tries to select multiple things, just save your project and reopen it. I think I have this a lot of times on my character here, where I'm just like trying to select something. Well, I just opened the project, so mainly when you like recompile things. Just wanted to be aware of it. It's not actually broken, it's just a bug where you just have to reopen your file. But if we already added, we can do a few more things. For example, okay, yeah, there we go. Not sure what you're doing there. For example, we want to maybe have the target dynamic parented to something. So let's say I want this target to aim at my character. The character is also in this sequence here. Maybe I want to target at it. Now, obviously, I could just grab this here, right, and move it to the character. But what if it should directly move at the look at the character while the character is moving? I think I'm going to. You know what? I'm really quickly going to turn off the valley here. This is crazy. Where is it? Just turn off the valley. It's a nice addition. Like, it's going crazy for some reason. Anyway, where was I? I'm dragging my character here. Anyway, I drag in my character here, right? And let's say I give it animation, let's say times something. And let's say I want to directly always point at the arm here, at the character here, right? Yeah, we cannot just simply target this directly onto something here. I guess we could. No, we could probably not. If we want to target something here, we actually need a blueprint. I already created one for my character, for example, which I'm currently working on. But we are going to do this for the arm here. So simple, it's actually not that hard. We're just going to right click blueprint class, and we're going to create an actor, and we call this arm or robot arm anim. It's not really an MVP, whatever, but whatever. We're going to open it, and we're right here, and we're going to skeletal mesh. And a skeletal mesh. We're going to drag it onto the default scene root. So it's a parent, and then over here we can choose a skeletal mesh, which is the, what is it actually called? The industrial robot arm. There it is, gigantic. And now we go to the construction script. Now in short, the construction script ticks once when you're inside the editor. So whenever you change something, it's ticking. If you don't, it's not. or it's building when you're like compiling it, it does it once. Yeah. The first thing we want to do here is actually we need a control rig in here. So we can control rig, there's a control rig component. We simply need this so we know in this blueprint is a control rig. Then we can drag out here, add mapped skeleton. This will allow us to actually say, okay, this mesh uses a control rig skeleton. We're mapping the bones to it essentially. And what is the skeletal mesh component? And we already have a control rig plugged in here. This thing here, if we delete this, is essentially the control rig up here. We can plug this in here. This is just telling us which control rig we use. We didn't set it yet, we have to select it over here. And here it says control rig class. And the one we want to use is the robot arm. So now we know this character is using this, our robot arm control rig. Though we have to map the skeletal mesh, this is very easy. You're just going to grab our skeletal mesh and here we go. Now we're saying mesh using that control rig because we set the skeletal mesh to the robot arm and the control rig to our robot arm, and then we're just plugging both into this node saying, okay, map it to each other. Next, we go to the event graph and I want you to click on the control rig and scroll down here. There we have events. We can read through the events. Post initialize is essentially the first thing it does like once. Yeah. So when you compile, essentially construction script happens, then it goes to the event graph, and then the post initialize is the first thing that actually happens inside the control rig. This is not really what we want. We want on pre-setup. Pre-setup, it's pretty self-explanatory. Pre the setup. What is the setup? The setup is our setup event here. So before this here happens, we're going to actually use this event here, and this one will trigger first. And what we want here is set initial transform, bone transform. Initial bone transform. Here. No. Set initial bone transform from skeletal mesh, this here, with a control rig behind it. This is what I want. This essentially will make sure before anything happens that the bones are actually fitting to the mesh. And what do we want to plug in here? Now we could directly select it, but instead we're just going to grab the skeletal mesh. Now this is not going to directly get in here because this is just a component. Yeah, it's just saying it contains all those things here, right? But we want specifically to target this skeletal mesh option. So we drag out here and get skeletal mesh. So dumb to finding this. Why is it not like, there it is. This one. You have to look for it. It's under variables mesh apparently. Is it just the same thing as this one here? No, it's not. Yeah, get skeletal. There it is. You have to scroll down a bit. This thing here essentially is this option here. Yeah. And this one we can plug in. Meaning, should we ever switch like the robot arm, it's automatically doing everything for us. So this is just a base setup. Essentially over here, we're saying, okay, fit the bones to the mesh and then fit the initial bones also to the mesh. This is kind of the base setup you basically always need. Now we're going to select the control rig. And now we can actually do what we came here for, mapping things to each other. Now, in the construction script, or if you select the control rig, there is a mapping somewhere. Here, animation mapped elements. You could map things that way, and I tried it for a while. It's not really working. You can also like make control rig mapped elements. Yeah, with that you could like and make component reference, and then you could like plug in whatever actor you want here. I don't know. It's not really working for me. And doing it in a construction script doesn't make a lot of sense since you cannot manipulate it really well. I tried to do it in one of the other events. It also didn't work. So I just did the monkey brain version, which just works. All right. So just select the control rig, and on the pre-forward solve here. So basically before we are actually solving anything here, we are going to get control rig. What is this component? This component is this component. So everything this here contains, yeah, it contains all those things, and we specifically want to target this option here, which is this here. Yeah? This one here allows us to specifically target what we have in here. And then we want cast to robot arm. This will say that this control rig is specifically this robot arm here. I'm not sure if you actually need this, it doesn't matter, just do it. And then we can, if we drag out here, go down here, under variables, you're going to see, oh, we have some variables in here. Why are those variables in here? Because in our control rig, we have variables, meaning we can directly target those. Don't worry, this wasn't my test variable. You only have one. But we can make a new variable in here. And we call this target1, I guess. And we're going to, do we actually need a transform? I guess we do, yes. Not really, just make a transform out of that. It doesn't matter. And we're going to copy this one time. And this will be target2 because we have 2 targets, right? Right. And now we can just target1. We can get it and we can set it. We want to set it. And we want to set both targets. So target2, set target2. And we can plug this in here, make a reroute maybe, make this a bit cleaner here. So, what do we want to set it with? We want to set our actor. So, we make a new variable over here, variable, and we call this target1. We're going to change the variable to an actual actor. This, right, this one here. Change variable, I don't know what you want from me. It's okay, do that, I guess. Doesn't matter. We're going to break this out here and we want to get this. We're going to copy this variable one time because we need also our target2 and grab this out here. So now what do we want from this actor? We want to get transform. Actor transform, actor transform. So, and we're just plugging this right into this transform here. So these are just variables which we can fill ourselves. If we select this variable over here and open this up here, we essentially have access to it from outside. If we now go back here and we select our, yeah, we have to delete this first because here we just dragged in the mesh itself. The mesh itself is the purple thing, but we want to now drag in our blueprint. So, and the thing is, weird thing, I cannot drag it. I don't know why. It's supposedly a bug, I guess, but you can open the sequencer here and under transform, you can manually transform the Y location and move it over. Weird thing, I don't know why. It's just the way it is. And we are going to place it here. If we now select this here, it's actually the blueprint, not the skeletal mesh, meaning we have more access to the right here. And you can see we have our target1, meaning we can select any actor we want from the scene. Now, the problem is we cannot animate it here. Yeah, we cannot like animate it over here. So in order to do that, we also have to select our variable. And there is this option expose to cinematic. If we now compile this, we have, if we select this here, a little button here. Aha, and if we click this button, aha, we have it over here and we can select whatever we have in our sequence. For example, I could select the lever and we had the lever selected, right? So, and we can also key this here because now we have actual access to the key. I can have the lever over here, I can have the lever handle over here and it would switch. Though currently our targets here are not actually going to be set to the lever here. So for that we need to go into the control rig and actually set it in. Meaning here in the beginning, completely in the beginning, we want to set those two. So we're just going to select it, right? And we want to set the space of the target1 set and the space of the target2 set and just plug it in correctly. Over here, and we want to get our variable get, plug it in, get, plug it in. So what is actually happening? Let's recap for a second. We have our whole control rig as it should work, right? And in the blueprint, we first of all say, okay, mesh and control rig work together. Then in the event graph under the pre-setup, we're also saying they should work together in simple terms. And then on the pre-forward solve, so before this forward solve happens, we're going to say that those variables have those transforms from the actors, which we manually can set. And then the forward solve happens and the targets will be set to those, our target spaces will be set to those transforms. Let's compile this, save it really quickly, and we can give it a look here. I guess we have to put it in again whenever we compile. This is very buggy sometimes. And transform location on the Y, get over here somewhere a little bit up. So, and now we have our normal thing here, right? Everything is working as it should, and there we go. This is the bug. You can see multiple things are selected. I don't get my gizmo. Super duper annoying. In tab target, I actually want to select the U, please. There we go. It's actually, I cannot work with that. Okay. Now, we're going to select it. And we're going to expose our target here. Now we have the target over here. Let's say I want lever and it's not working. You can see it's somewhere over here, but my lever is one of those here. The reason for that is because in the control rig, we cannot simply plug the transform in. This is in rig space, but this here is in world space. So we have to transform the spaces. It's pretty simple from world. And we're just going to plug this in because this transform comes from the world. And we're going to plug this in, let's just see. And we can see the target is now actually at the lever. And we have a few controls here, right? So let's scale you up a bit. Yeah, there's a bug again. Let me please my 2D controls. I think this one here. And you're going to see it's actually right here. If I would now move this here, you're going to see it's following it. With a delay because we have to interpolate, but yeah, it's working. Well, let's say I'm going to use my lever here, right? And now, not you. So this lever here, I have a floating handle here, right? And now we have the target here. I can offset, if it would select me, let me select it. You know what, I'm going to really quickly reopen my project here. So yeah, it's really buggy a little bit sometimes. But back to that. I reopen my project right now and I'm going to hit my thingy here so I can expose the lever here. And we're going to see now we have it here. Now I can actually select it and the rotation is even right. So I can just move it up here. Yeah. And let's say I now can animate one of my controls here. I want U to be right here. So Shift W for position key. And then I'm going to interpolate it over here. Okay, maybe it's a bit far away. Let's grab you and move you a bit over there. So, all right. And now you can see we are interpolating over here. So, and now, let's say we reach this point here, right? I could, in theory, select the lever here if it would let me. And let's say I'm going to give it a rotation control, so Shift E. And over here, I'm going to like rotate it like, I don't know, something over here or so. Shift E. And now, let's see, it's moving over here, then the handle is moving over there. If you would reduce the interpolation, we could also make it look like it's actually moving the thing. Can I select something else here for a second? Let's do a little bit more in the control rig just so we can work with that properly. Control rig right here. The essential thing is working. By the way, I should probably also expose the second target. Expose to cinematics, hit compile, and in the robot arm. A few more things, not much though. I want to have a few more controls, so I'm just going to copy controls 3 here. I'm going to make a control 4 out of that. Same thing here. I want to set the controls. We're doing this in the setup event right here, setup event. And what do I want to set? I want to set my up 4, set, unfold this here, make it local space, make it 0 or something. the X we set on R2. Let's hit compile here just so we can see things. It's kind of up here, interesting. I'm also going to plug this rotation 0 in all of them. I'm also going to plug this rotation 0 in all of them. And I'm going to check the initial here. So now, and I'm going to offset this like, what is it, minus 45 or something. No, minus 35. And then like 15, because we're working in like 15 steps here. We have another control here. And maybe I kind of want to make this a bit more clean here. All right, well then we have another control. This control, you know what, let's make another one right away, and let's make a control 5 as well. C control V, 5 and 5, and I also want to set it, set control in local space 0, 0, 0, and initial, and 2 on X, minus 35, and let's say like a 30. That should work out. The rotation 0 has to be in here, and now we Gucci. All right, we have 2 more controls. Now this control here essentially should be the interpolation. Where do we have our interpolation? We have it right here. Let's get the control 4, get, and we kind of want to use X here, I would say. Multiply, so instead of the 5 we're using this to multiply which kind of amount we have. We have indeed a 15 here. We kind of have to add a little bit. Let's add a 1 here. So whatever we do, we always have a 1 in here, and it will essentially work. Yeah, there we go. Working very, very slow. If we now drag this up here, or down here, I think it was, we should have a pretty quick interpolation type. Now I'm also going to like multiply it by 2. Yeah, already have it here. Multiply by 2. So we have a bigger range to work with. So down here. Now it's very quick. Still at least 1 frame offset, but this is okay. I think having back our interpolation. We have essentially now a control for the interpolation, which can be very handy for animating. And I kind of forgot why I put in the second control. Damn it, I forgot why I put it in the second control. But okay, the idea now is this thing interpolates to the target, right? Then the thing moves over. So kind of here, I want my interpolation to be far less. Let's key it here, and in the next frame, we're going to blop, turn it off. Or make it really quickly, and then you're going to see it's maybe a bit softer. Maybe it should not switch like in the first frame, but it's interpolating over here. Yeah, maybe it should be a little bit softer, so it's not like super snappy. I have to kind of make sure it's actually reaching the target. It should probably be in front of here, kind of should reach it. So there we go, that's looking right. Alright, I remember why I put in the second control. I put in the second control to turn off all the controls so we can actually see. For that, we do this probably in the front here. We can use a for each item. We are going to make a loop now. This is just something you can do to execute the same logic for a lot of things. We can set visibility. Not here, please. We want this here. And you have to understand, yeah, I'm going to explain this in a second. We drag out from here, items, and we can put a lot of items in here. And what I want is those items, all the controls we want to actually hide. So control the target interp, hit a plus. This thing should be hidden, the robot one end, the control robot one end, and then the targets as well. So target 1 and target 2, control target 1 and control target 2. And what do I want to do? I want to plug those in here. Yeah. And I want them to turn off. Though we need a branch here. Now some of you might know you can press B and left click. Do not do this. This is the wrong branch. It will break. You have to right click and type in branch. You can see it's looking different. And this is because it is different. We're going to make a sequence here just because we kind of want to execute this kind of separately from the main branch we have here. Right. And if true, all of the things will be off. Yeah, off. All of the things, off. As a quick side note, you do not want to keep continuing things like that here after the loop. Do not do this unless you actually know what you're doing. Usually you want to keep going from complete, because this here is ticking until the items are through. We have 4 items here, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the all rest is also 1, 2, 3, 4, and this can go insane. Okay, so just to be aware of this, do not continue from here unless it's specifically a loop. All right. Now we need a condition here, so we can actually turn it off. For that, we put in the other control right here. This one here, 5 get, and I'm just going to use x here, and let's say if x bigger equals what is the half of it we have in here? We have a 15. So I don't know, let's say greater equals 7.5, then it's true. And if actually no, sorry, if it's less, because we're starting with a 0, right? Less equals 7.5. So if it's its default value, which is 0, which is less than this here, it's true. And it's going to turn it on. We're going to copy this here. And if it's not true, it's off. So we can just check this really quickly here. Right now we have the default value. So the default value is 0, which is less than 7.5. It's on. If we make it higher, we can also, just to see it better for you, put in an add here and right click on the pin here, watch value, you can see it's 0. So this here is true. If we make it more than 7.5, why is it not wrong axis? You can see it's getting bigger, and if we reach 7.5, it's actually false, and it should turn off the controls. We need to just check it off here. On, off, on, off, on, off, on, off. Okay. I did this because this is a nice thing to have when you're like animating here. Yep, and I cannot switch things. Things are buggy again. I love it. And I want a 5. Sometimes you can still like manipulate things here. What the actual heck? Wrong axis. I want the 7 to be like, so it's off. And now we can actually see. And you're going to see, whoop, whoop. You can see it's like a little bit offset. This is not a big deal because we have quite a few controls here now, which we can use. Now the target interp is not usually nothing we want to move. I mean, we could, it's really just like a thing, but actually this is, wait, let me think. This one here is usually a frame delay. So if we want to like not have it a frame delay, we can use the target interp. And I'm just going to carefully, and let's say I'm going to make a key here in front somewhere. Say here, and then I want it to like a little bit offset. Maybe we should make a sphere out of that here just so we can see better. Let's make a sphere out of here. Sphere sin, and like relatively small, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. Even smaller, 0.25, 0.25, 0.25. But that we should probably see better. Yep, now it's relatively small. And I wanted a second key right here somewhere. Okay. The thing is that the reason it's offset is because of how it was rigged. I'm not entirely sure why it's that offset. I don't really get it. It's a weird thing from the rigging side. Usually I would rig things quite different anyway. But now if we play you here, you can see this is looking much better. We have essentially a lot of control over how we move things, as we can, for example, use the interpolate here, which is not itself as a control interpolated. It's only the difference from this sphere to this sphere, and usually we want to manipulate this sphere, and you can see it's relatively interpolated. It's not much interpolated right now because we have the interpolate relatively quick, but over here you can see the interpolate is pretty big actually. Yeah, over here it's even more. So with that we can animate the heck out of it, really. So now this is one aspect of using that. The other one would be in gameplay, which is also not too hard. Let's just make a new blueprint here, hit actor, robot arm underscore BP, open that up. We are going to also, it's pretty much the same thing, just a skeletal mesh. Drag this onto this thing here, then we are going to put in the robot arm, and then we need actually this is kind of wrong, use oh no, it's fine. Animation mode, use animation blueprint. We need an animation blueprint in this case, so just right click on here, create anim BP. We're going to open this up. Then here in the robot arm, we're going to put in the the animation blueprint we just created. And then over here in the anim BP, we get, I think our input might be fine, input pose. And we get a control rig. Plug this right in here. In the control rig over here, we can select our robot arm. Hit compile, and with that the control rig is essentially working, but in the blueprint we want to do a few things as well. In the begin overlap we can just simply print for now, print out the actors which are overlapping. Let's just see, and I hit just play here. Let's see when it's actually overlapping. This thing has no collision. We probably need a trigger box collision. We can turn off hidden in game so we can actually see it. All right, and this is just the sequence. I'm going to close the sequencer just so we don't get confused anymore. And the robot arm BP I'm going to drag in here. Now we actually work with the right thing. Just see. And there we go. It's overlapping. We can see on the top left my default enemy BP is interacting with it. Let's just see if we can make in the viewport the box quite a bit bigger. Just scale this, come on, scale you up quite a bit, just like, and here it's overlapping, you see, as soon as we hit the box here. Could be probably a little bit bigger. So essentially we know when something is overlapping. Probably a better solution is if we cast it, cast to default anime. This would, for you, this would be like whatever is your player character BP. And now, yeah, so. And we're printing this here. So it's probably a bit better. And just working as normal, but I don't want anything else to overlap, right? So I just want to make sure this is actually overlapping. This is just a way to make sure it's only the character interacting with. So what should actually happen when it's overlapping? Now, when it's overlapping, I want to do things. Since the overlap only does a thing once when it's overlapping, we need to create a custom event. Custom event. This is very simple. And let's just call it custom tick. For those who know what tick is, each frame it's doing something, tick, 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 each frame. Custom event is essentially the same thing, just that you can control it with, for example, a timer. Set timer by event. Now we can plug this event in here, so it knows this timer is doing this event here. And if we have 0, I think it does nothing. If we have something like very low, it's doing things very, very often. Let's just use a 0.1 for now. So now we can just print this custom event to see how many times it's actually ticking. So currently nothing is happening, right? But if we go inside the box, we can see it's constantly, you probably have to check looping here. So no. So we're not quite inside the box. Nothing is ticking. If we go inside, you can see it's ticking, 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 ticking. Yeah, each 0.1 seconds. With that, we have something here. We can now do something. If we go inside the actor, it's starting this event, and this event is ticking, 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 ticking. And what do I actually want to do now? I want to essentially, when we are moving in here, right? We're moving in here. I want the target of our arm to be at the character. Meaning, I want to get this overlapping thing here, right? And get actor transform. And I want to create a variable from that. Promoter variable. And this we're going to call car target, I guess. We're going to plug this in here. With that, we set a variable. So this variable contains now our character position. We can print it so we can see it. So right in here. If we now move inside here, we're going to see it's ticking with our current position of the character. But it keeps ticking even though we are leaving the box. So all we got to do is on the opposite of this one here. So actor and overlap, I think. Actor and overlap, here it is. We have to turn off the event. So we're just getting the same node here, plugging it in. Same cast here. Just to check, it's only this one here. And we're going to get the same event. And we turn off looping and turn this to 0. I think 0 should be nothing then. How long we wait? Set timer less equals 0 seconds will clear it if it is set. Okay, meaning this is exactly what we want. So now if we go inside here, it's ticking, 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 ticking with our current position. We leave it and it's not ticking anymore. This is relatively efficient, I would say. Now we just need to get this into our animation blueprint in which we have the control rig, right? For that we have the event graph here. So here now in the NMVP, we usually for characters we do something like get try to get pawn owner. This will not work because we don't have a pawn, we have an actor here. So get actor, owning actor, get owning actor, and then we make a is valid. Plug this in here and we can really quickly do a print to see what is going on here. Let's just plug the names in here just so we see. Compile. It is currently valid, and we can see if it play or not play that the robot arm, the animation editor preview actor. So it's also getting the one in the sequence apparently. Which we can start by casting cast to robot arm BP, not the anim BP, we're working with a BP here. And I mean, it's kind of a double check, but whatever. And now we are targeting basically the robot arm here. And from that, we want to get the car target. So car target, and we want to get it. Yeah. And now essentially we are getting our character target over here, right? We're targeting stuff, etc. And over here now in the NMVP, we are getting it as well. We have to right click this here and promote a variable. With that we have a new variable down here. So we're getting it from the character BP, putting it into the NMVP. And then we can go over to our anim graph here and we can grab the variable. And now the variable just has to get into our control rig. How do we get it in? We don't have a thingy here. So if we go to our blue control rig here and we hit the I here on our variable, hit compile, go back to our animation blueprint and we select this control rig here. we will see under input and output, we can actually expose this pin. Under input we want it because we want to input something. And now we essentially, from our robot arm, where we check is our character overlapping, then we're setting the event to start, then we're setting the overlapped one variable. We can delete the print here for now. And if we are leaving it, we're turning off the event. But if we are inside this custom event, make sure we are setting this variable. Then in the animation blueprint right here, we are checking for our owner, which is the robot arm. Why is it the owner? Because over here in the skeletal mesh, we set the AnimBP. So this AnimBP is owned by this blueprint. And then we are getting the variable from the robot arm here and setting it into a new variable. And then in the anim graph, we are setting it into the controller. So, okay, let's see. If we now hit play and I'm going inside here, the target might be there. We cannot really tell. How could we tell? We could hit play here, go inside here, and we go to the robot arm, and up here there's a debug option, and we can just hit this, and we are going to see if this is somewhere. Target 1, where's our target 1? Oh yeah, it's right over here. So let's push this a bit aside. And if I move around, we're going to see actually in the update window how the target is actually moving around. Yeah, leave it, it's going to stop. If it's moving here, it's moving around. The only thing that's missing is that we're actually turning it on, meaning we also have to get another variable in here. What we essentially want is that over here, one of those here or multiple, however we want to see it. Which one was it? This one here. Target control 3 is actually turning on and moving to target on. Right? So we want a variable which turns this here on. We can just go to the robot arm. We just have to fit something in here. So essentially we just need to get create a new variable here. Interp on and make a float out of that. We don't need more, a float, and we're going to set it, not get it, set it. We're setting it to 1. All right, then in our AnimBP, we just simply have to also get it. So drag this out and get interp, something like interp, get, and right click, make a new variable, and just simply go to over here, drag it in. All right, now we just have to build it into the control rig. Where do we do that? First of all, we need a variable. We need to get this variable inside here. For that, we just simply make a new variable. And what did we call it? Just to keep the same naming, interp on. So we call it interp on, make a float out of that, and hit the I so we can access it from the outside, hit compile. In the AnimBP, now we select the control rig, we can interp on, and we can drag this in here, compile or something, back to the control rig. We can drag it in here, get, and what do we actually want now? I think I might have done it exactly the wrong way. So instead of this one here, we might want to use this one here. We can test this, let's put a 1 in here. Exactly, I did it exactly the wrong way. So the lower one is where we want the interp on inside. Right in here. And the top one we want to skip. All right, and now hopefully we're working. And there we go. You can see it's a little bit jittery. I can tell exactly why. The thing is just when we are leaving it, it should probably go back to its default position. For that, if we go to Robot Army, we are just setting it to 1 once. Actually, you know what? We don't need to do this in the tick. We can just do this over here. And when we're leaving it, we can set it to 0. And the reason it is jittering a bit is because this is relatively unconstant ticking. 0.1 is not really a lot, so 0.01 might be a little bit much. I'm saving before something crashes. Compile, and this should be smoother now, but it's also a little bit more, yeah, you can see, much more smooth, right? The thing is, it is not really efficient to do it that way. I think I have a different solution for that as well. So we're essentially getting our transform from here into the AnimBP, which is right here, and we should be able to interpolate this here as well. F interp constant. We can smooth it out here instead of doing it, doing a lot of ticks here. Interp 2. And this is now essentially the same thing as we did in the robot arm here, where we interpolated from the previous frame to the new target. It's essentially the same thing. All we gotta do is, let's see, this is the new target, so this goes into the target. And then we set this over here, and we get the variable again right in here, and we need delta time, delta time. No, that's not correct. Delta get volt delta seconds, and the speed. I don't know, like a 5 or something. We'll see. And in theory now in the blueprint, if we make this relatively low, we have a 0.1 in here right now. Let's say we make a 0.5, so just so we can clearly see it if something is weird. You can see it's not jittery. Now 0.5 is really low, right? And maybe we want to have a little bit more here. Wait, here this, yeah, where we interpolated. 0.5. I keep forgetting if a lower number is faster or a high number is faster. It's so confusing. You just gotta see. Okay, a lower number is slower. Good. So we can just use like a 3 maybe. Just gotta check. Right now it's only updating every 0.5 seconds. Okay, so like this is a very low tick, but you can see at least it's smooth, right? We're going to make this back over here in robot arm to a 0.1, yeah, or 0.1. Let's see. You can see now it's smooth, and we're using just a 0.1. Yeah, I'm not so happy about the rotation not being interpolated, but something. And if we were walking through it, let's say, theory, it's not like it can actually break itself. It's going to rotate around. Pretty cool, actually. Yeah, I think this is essentially it. If we're going out here, it's going back to 0, its default position. Walking in here, going to follow us. I kind of imagine there being a laser or something which kind of follows the character, right? There are ways you can do it. You can make things quicker. Now, obviously, one time would be kind of here. Interpolation speed would be maybe a little bit quicker, like a 5 or something. Let's see. Yeah, it's not jittery. A 5 is totally fine. Now, one way obviously would be here, but if you make it like too quick, let's say 6 or something, it starts jittering again because of the this here, where we only update at each 0.5 seconds. So you might want to tweak this if it should be more accurate. So you need to go a little bit lower eventually. Here, obviously, I think like let's say a 10 might still be fine. This is just there to actually avoid the jittering. Yeah, maybe a little bit lower. Let's say 6. Let's stay with a 6. This is fine. Then the other thing where you want to adjust it is in the control rig itself. You remember we have an interpolate here with a value. This is the main thing that is kind of slowing it down. So let's just say for a second here we're not using our control to multiply it. You could probably add something to it from the blueprint as well. You know what? Let's do this. Why not? It's relatively easy. Let's just make another variable here, and this is just control rig interp speed. and we're going to set this here. And I guess we can also set it here just to reset it to 0 or something. And let's say like I don't know, 60. And in the animation blueprint, we want to also get this variable. So we want to interp on now the get interp control rig speed. We make a new variable out of that. I set it right here. And in the anim graph, we now need to get this as we want to get it into the control rig. Then in the control rig, we actually need a variable for that. What did I call it? Let me just look up the name here. Let me just copy the name. And we're just going to paste in the name here. We are hitting the I, so we actually can now compile it. And in the anim BP, grab it right here. If you check it, you can plug it in. Now this variable is actually inside the control rig. Inside the control rig, we can add this now to get add this to our interpolation speed. As the number is higher, as quicker it will work. Okay, now we are putting in a 60, so the interpolation should be relatively straight here. Or maybe a 60 is a bit extreme, huh? Yeah, man, you gotta tweak this a little bit. I think 0.1 is a little bit low. Let's use a 0.05. Should already make it quite a lot smoother. Yeah, you see, still a bit jittery. We can always also go into the control rig while playing and hit the debug here. Okay, apparently didn't quite like that. Going to make this put this on the second screen for a second. Yeah, you cannot go too high with that number. So this does it for this video. A lot of thanks again to my Patreons, which is still just shard. Again, if you feel like supporting me and my videos, link in the description. If you want to learn more, I also have a link in the description to my courses. We have some Blender courses about anime. We have a few Unreal courses about shading. If you're interested, just take a look. It's not going to hurt you if you just check it out. And I see you in the next video.